you for tuning in to Podcasting for Financial Professionals. This marks the first of the summer 2025 mini-series in which I'm pulling forward a clip from an interview way back in the show's archives and unpacking the tips or advice shared so that you can hear how it applies today and how doing what they said might look for you and your podcast. I'm Virginia Elder, your host and owner of Podcast Abundance, the leading provider of audio and video production for financial service professionals. Today, we're going deep on creating pre-recorded intros, outros, and commercial components for your show. Anthony Weaver, the host of About That Wallet, was one of my first guests way back in February of 2024 when this show was still called Reaching Abundance. For those of you watching on YouTube who might want Anthony's entire interview, that full episode is linked above. There are book recommendations. We each share stories about our personal development as business owners and much more. All right, check out this clip and then we'll discuss.
And I remember several times is that I would forget to press the record button, forget that the mic was on mute a couple of times, messed up my intro so much so that I was like, you know what? I need to sit down, pre-record my intro. So it's the same intro all the time. And then I was like, cool, got that out the way. It took me at least 8 times to get the one time out there. Then I was like, cool, now my outros suck. So let me go down and pre-record my outros. Got those in. Then I was like, cool, I came up with a simple budget calendar. Like, let me come up with a commercial for that. Took me about 12 times to get that right.
So Anthony shared firsthand his struggle with fumbling words, forgetting what to say, and messing up his show, his words, not mine, more times than he could count, leading him to create pre-recorded elements for his show. So let's talk about why you would do this and kind of like the benefits of having pre-recorded elements for your show. For one, you'll be able to nail your name, show name, business's catchphrase, and call to action without stumbling, looking off camera, or sounding unsure. Those are like the number one things you want to do when you're introducing yourself is nail all these what should be memorized phrases without stumbling or stuttering or sounding unsure. So big win there. On top of that, your pre-recorded, pre-mixed intro, outro, commercial, and any other elements that you find yourself needing often can be edited as individual pieces, mixed with music, and then saved as an already perfected piece that just gets tacked on easily by your editor to every single episode. Another benefit of having pre-perfected pieces to your show is that it creates familiarity and trust because the listeners come to recognize your music, the cadence, your tone, the way you say what you say, etc. This makes each episode easier for you because when you sit down to record, you just focus on the primary points you want to make or creating a great interview. And you're not worried about stumbling over what you're going to say or what your call to action should be for this episode because it's all already predetermined. So here's what this looks like in practice. To create a pre-mixed intro, that's where we're going to start here. And that's the primary piece we're going to focus on in this episode because this is where I work with clients most often. So to create a pre-mixed intro, you're going to identify these 5 components: who your show is for, how you help them, the benefit to listening to your show, like what do they get out of it? Why do they want to listen? Your call to action, That's going to be preferably to a lead magnet so that you can capture their email address and they get a quick win with what you're providing. And then the fifth thing is, of course, who you are. So you're going to craft a script that allows you to naturally introduce yourself, your show, and run through the rest of these components. Creating a pre-mixed outro is almost the same exercise, except instead of welcoming listeners in, or viewers, if you're thinking about YouTube, instead of welcoming them in, you're thanking them for listening and leaving them with the call to action and some positive sentiments. The intro and outro creation exercise is available for free on my site in the resources section. You're going to look for the Attraction Messaging Blueprint. I love that name. That free PDF walks you through creating an intro, an outro, and a trailer for your show. This is highly useful for new podcasters, of course, but also for experienced ones. Just because you have 300 episodes in the bag doesn't exempt you from the necessity for intentional structure for these high impact components. Another tip. When you're putting together the intro, the outro, and even a commercial for your show, the calls to action, or CTAs, that go on any single episode should all be the same, meaning the intro's call to action, the commercial's call to action, and the outro's call to action should all be directing your listeners to the exact same thing so that they hear, for example, download the Attraction Messaging Blueprint 3 times in that one episode. To build on that, I want you to keep that call to action set the same for 1 full quarter of the year. As your business and your offers mature, you might develop multiple lead magnets or courses, so you can create an intro, an outro, and a commercial set of pre-mixed components for each thing. Then it's up to you and your team to just look at the year, look at your content plan, and be strategic about which CTA you're running each quarter and why. Over time, this will also give you the data you need to know for sure, no questions asked, which call to action set is most effective or creates the most engagement. It's going to be so obvious through the data that, there's no qualms about if you should take something down, if you should lean into something. It's going to get real clear over time. So you might be wondering, okay, I have a pre-mixed intro and outro over here, but I need to introduce my guest or topic per episode. So how do I do that? Or how do I make these pieces work together? Well, that's easy. Your pre-recorded intro with music, if that's your style, runs during the first 30 seconds after your listener hits play. That creates familiarity. They get used to hearing your music, your voice, the way that you speak, all those things. Then, towards the end of that 30 seconds, as the music is fading lower, they hear you again as if you were just continuing your thoughts as you roll straight into introducing your guest or your topic. The other question that might come up for you is something around like some resistance to following a formula because you don't want your show to sound like anyone else's. And I agree with you. You want to be unique and stand out. I'm gently going to squash that fear because it is you and your unique perspective and business that's going to fill in the blanks for each of those formulaic elements of the intro or the outro. So it will be unique. On top of that, your voice, the cadence at which you speak, your tone, your accent, the words you say, the music you choose, all these things will be different from anybody else. So set that concern aside. Don't even worry about it. This formula that I'm providing to you in the Attraction Messaging Blueprint works and has worked for many, 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 many shows over many, many years. So, for example, for a little behind the scenes on this show, I started out with a pre-recorded intro, outro, and commercial. I'm in the middle of reworking and re-recording them. And so they've been just removed temporarily. And I'm doing on the fly intros, which are absolutely challenging to say the least. I do feel like on the fly intros would be a fear inducing factor for most of my clients and most podcasters, which is why I encourage most people to craft pre-made elements for their shows. All right, so you heard it from Anthony himself. This was something that he had to stumble through and figure out how to solve and what to do about this problem of fumbling with words and messing up his intro time after time. And we also talked about the benefits of creating a pre-made intro, outro, commercial, and any other components that you find being used in multiple episodes of your show. This is going to make the entire production process easier for you and for anyone who is editing or assembling your episodes. This also allows you to take advantage of dynamic ads inside your podcast host platform. You can take any one of those pre-made commercials and pop them in the dynamic ads section and have that fresh, brand new pre-mixed commercial run on any and all of the podcast episodes that you choose, of course, based on some podcast host settings accounts. That's kind of an advanced strategy. So if you have any questions about creating an intro, assembling your show, using dynamic ads, or anything in between, I'm here for you. You can always email me at virginia@podcastabundance.com, and I'm happy to help. In the meantime, catch that attraction messaging blueprint, walk through the exercise, identify the elements, create your script, and record it, and then either edit it as an individual component or have your team do it for you, which is what I highly recommend. I will see you again next week with another really insightful clip from a prior podcast interview for this 2025 summer mini series. Thanks for being here. Catch you next time.